In the legal field, project management is not a term that you might hear often. So, what is exactly project management? At its core, project management is the practice of initiating, planning, executing, controlling, and closing projects. It's about ensuring that tasks are completed on a time, within scope, and within budget. Effective project management ensures that resources are used efficiently, risks are minimized, and goals are achieved. In any profession, it's the backbone of successful project completion. In legal practice, every case or client matter can be viewed as a project. There are objectives, deadlines, and resources involved. Whether preparing for a court case, drafting contract, or conducting research, applying project management can streamline tasks, improve client satisfaction, and even reduce costs. In this course, we will focus on two essential principles of software project management: agile methodology and project lifecycle. In the world of tech and business, agile promotes adaptive planning and encourages rapid and flexible response to change. This can be applied to our project as well. Imagine working on a complex guided interview and adapting your questions based on feedback or changes in the statute, for example. Agile means being responsive, incremental, and client-focused. Instead of handling a legal project in one go, the project is divided into smaller and manageable tasks. Each task results in a deliverable or completed piece of the project. Regular meetings, often termed as stand-ups in agile lingo, are held to discuss progress, roadblocks, and next steps. This ensures that all team members are aligned and can quickly address any challenges. After each batch of tasks, feedback is sought from the client or an internal stakeholder. This ensures that the project stays aligned with client needs and can adapt to any change in requirements. It allows you to make changes early on to avoid any major challenges in the end. Agile recognizes that project needs can change rapidly. By working in incremental tasks and constantly seeking feedback, you can pivot quickly, ensuring that the end product is most aligned with the client's current need. Transparency in Agile is mostly between your team and stakeholders. This transparency ensures that everyone involved knows the status of various components of the project. Kanban boards or Scrum boards, Gantt charts are often used to visualize the progress of tasks. Prioritization of tasks is an important step of the Agile methodology. I always recommend to start with easy and high priority tasks first. This will allow your clients to see value early and often throughout the project. Project lifecycle. In the context of software development or product management, the project lifecycle showcases different stages of your process. In general, these stages include research and discovery, design content. In our case, we want to focus on plain language, development, testing, launch, and maintenance. So here is a breakdown of what each term means with some examples. Research and discovery. This is the initial phase where you gather information to understand the problem you are trying to solve or needs you are trying to address. It often involves understanding your needs, market demands, completion, potential challenges, and other factors that will influence the direction of the project. Tools like surveys, interviews, and market analysis are often used in this process. In this example, we will be reviewing a discovery phase and research phase for a protection order portal. So during the discovery, we go through a lot of phases. We go through comparative analysis. We did a survey with the clerks. We looked at what other states are doing in the protection order field, for example. We looked at existing resources and we ranked those resources. Not everything is interesting, and we can learn from those so we don't repeat those mistakes in our project. After we did that, we prepared this documentation that we shared with stakeholders so we can get their feedback before we started development. So like when we looked at some project, we have the likes and dislikes. We did the clerk survey, like I said, and we have results. In our project, we might not be doing that, but this is like an example of the process. And this presentation is what constitutes the deliverable, the discovery and research deliverable. This is another example. This is more complex. This is a project this is what we call an idea board. This is a larger project that has many components. We basically, in our research, we gather all the information we can find and we put them in this board so we know what each one of them is, what are the likes, what are the dislikes. We look at existing examples from other counties, from other courts. We look at existing solutions. For example, in this project, it includes a chatbot. So we looked at what other states are doing. We looked at what is good, what is not good. And then we combine all of that in our research. So at the end of the research and the discovery phase, you should prepare a summary of your finding. And those are the backbone for the project. That's what we will use for the next step, which is design. So based on the insights from the research phase, you begin to design your solution. For software or digital products, this often means creating wireframes, mockups, or prototypes of the user interface. It can also involve designing user experiences or UX to ensure that the end product is user-friendly and meets the intended need. In this example, we are reviewing the design phase for a name change petition for the state of Nevada. As you can see in my Jamboard in Figma, I started with an eligibility review. This eligibility review, it's basically, you have to understand the statute of name change. You can't create a petition if you don't understand who is eligible, who is not eligible. So once you read the statute and you understand the statute, you start putting that into a decision tree or a workflow like this one. And then after the user will hit start, we will ask them a question. Are you 18 or older? Because you can't file a petition if you are minor. So in this case, if the person is a minor, we need to direct them to other resources. And then we go to the next step. So we need to know who are seeking name change for, because you can't seek name change for someone that is not yourself or not a minor that you are the guardian of. So if the user say just me, then we go to the next step. If they say it's for a minor, then we give them the steps for that. So you get the idea. We basically take the statute and put it into a decision tree. And with each question, we have options. And then we either continue or we stop there and then we give them resources, or we tell them, hey, sorry, this petition is not for you, but this petition might work better, or contact us for more information. So once we did the eligibility review, we moved to creating the actual guided interview to generate the petition. So after we learned more about name change and the statute, we decided to create two types of guided interviews, one for adults and one for children and minors. And those are separate, so they have different, you can see from the screens, they have different information that needs to be collected. And then we start creating our screens. So in my example, I'm using Figma, but there are many tools that you can use for this. You can even use a paper and pencil if that's how you want to work. The most important thing is this information that you are creating will be handed over to, after this phase, we will start the development. So the developer needs to understand exactly what are the relationship between the screens, what text go into the screen, what doesn't go into the screen. That's why this step is very important. So in our screen, we have a welcome page where we explain what this interview is for. And then once they start, we start collecting the information. We want to know which county they want to file in. We want to know what their current legal name, address. And then you can see, for example, here we have a condition. If the address above is not their mailing address, we want to know what is their mailing address. So we ask them the question, is the address here the same as your mailing address? If they say yes, we are good to go. If they say no, we have to display another field for address to capture the mailing address. It is important to provide some helpful information. In my experience, you should not load the information early on in the interview because users might not pay attention to them. So you should put the information as the user need that information. So your information should be spread into multiple screens. For example, if you want to change your name in Nevada, you have to be resident of the state of Nevada. That's why we put it next to the address. So we want to remind them about that. And then when they start telling us when they became resident of Nevada, this information, more likely they're going to read it. And then we move to the other screen. Again, in this screen, we have some conditional logic here. This is how I did the conditional logic. Doesn't mean that you have to do it this way. This is just an example. So as long as the developer know that if the answer to this question is other, they need to show this, that's fine. And then we keep going. We have multiple screen. And then this is the last screen where we want to make sure that they know what needs to be done next. And then we hit submit, and then they will get their documents. Sometimes when there are multiple documents that need to be generated, we want to make sure that the developer knows that. So in this example, there are some documents that only generated when certain conditions are met. So we need to emphasize that. So it's clear when each one of them will need to be generated. This is another example. This is for the protection order for Kansas. So we used Miro for this project, not Figma. And again, you are free to use either one of them or use your own tool if you want. But you can see how we divided this into multiple sections. So we need protection order for children, on protection from abuse. We need protection for self, on sexual assault, stalking, and human trafficking. And then you can see this is literally mimic the law. And we put all this information here. This is a visual that will help you when you are going through something new that you are not familiar with. It also will allow you to see if something is missing. So you can start with this mind map or workflow before even you start designing your screens. So there are many ways to approach this. The main important thing is that the design phase will help you in that process. Plain language. Plain language, sometimes known as plain English or clear writing, is a style of writing that is straightforward and easily understandable. In the context of legal documents, it means avoiding legal jargon, complex sentence structures, and unfamiliar terms. Instead, it emphasizes clarity and the use of everyday English to convey legal information. In the United States, the Plain Writing Act of 2010 requires federal agencies to use clear language in documents produced for the public. So let's go through some examples. In a traditional way, a question will be asked like this: spousal maintenance, herein referred to as alimony, will be provided by the higher earning spouse to the lesser earning spouse in monthly disbursement. You can tell how this sentence is pretty full. It's kind of hard to follow. And remember, when you are working with the self-help litigants, they may be in unusual situations where they are stressed, and language like that is pretty hard to understand. So this traditional sentence could be: the spouse who earn more will pay the other spouse support money every month. Simple and very straightforward. Here is another example. Violation of the stipulations set forth in this restraining order may result in penalties, including but not limited to incarceration or monetary fines. How about if you break the rules of this order, you might be fined, go to jail, or face other penalties? Here is another one. This agreement shall be in effect for a period of 12 months subsequent to the execution hereof. This agreement will last for 1 year from the date it's signed. Plaintiff requests that the court issue an ex parte temporary order of protection and a final order of protection restraining defendant from. You are asking the court to stop the adverse party from. The defendant. You may be surprised, but a lot of people don't know the difference between defendant and the plaintiff. So when you are creating a guided interview, instead of using the defendant, you can say the person you are seeking protection from, or you can say the other party if the person filing is the plaintiff. So you get the idea. Development. This is the phase where the actual product is built. For software, it means coding the application based on the designs. It's where the functionalities are implemented and the product begins to take shape. The development is often done in a development server. It's a server that is not accessible to the public. Testing and feedback. Once developed, the product is tested to ensure it works as intended. Issues or bugs discovered during testing are addressed. Testing can be done manually or using automated tools, and often involves both functionality testing, for example, does it work, and usability testing, is it user-friendly? Launch. After testing and final refinements, the product is made available to end users. For software, it might mean deploying it to a live server. At this stage, the feedback you will gather will most likely come from real users, and the product might undergo further refinements based on this feedback. Maintenance. Maintenance and support is an important step that you need to keep in mind. For software, you need to maintain the servers as well as the application. Let me share with you some examples. In protection order, for example, the forms change pretty much once a year. Sometimes there are minor changes, and sometimes there are changes to the law or the way the questions is asked, or maybe the workflow and the decision behind the guided interview. So you always keep in mind that maintenance is needed. In expungement, for example, it used to be that for someone to seek an expungement for a felony, they have to wait 7 years. Well, now it's 3 years. So if that happened, you probably have to change your guided interview. So these stages represent a simplified version of the product development process. And in the real world, each stage might have multiple substages, task, or feedback loop. In conclusion, while project management might not be the first term that comes to mind in legal practice, its principles are invaluable. Embracing it can lead to more efficient, effective, and adaptive legal practice. This skill can also apply to other processes and tasks such as contract drafting, management, and legal research.